Hello and welcome to another update video for Grand Voyage. I'm the game's producer, Mike Brady, and today we've got some exciting things to share with you. First of all, what is Grand Voyage? So many of you ask if it's like other projects out there, if it's a game with a plot. What is it? Grand Voyage is a virtual experience, a kind of video game where we give you, the player, the chance to stroll back in time and experience long-lost ships and vehicles from history's golden age of travel. There's a focus on ships, but we're also expanding our focus to airships like the R101. In Grand Voyage, you're able to explore these magnificent machines, as well as the destinations they visited, including famous and renowned ports like Liverpool and Southampton in different periods of time. You can take in the sights, learn about the history from recreated 3D artifacts, and take in the beautiful atmosphere with fun features like controllable time and weather conditions. In future, we'll be looking at adding more features like minigames, puzzles, or books to give you more to do in these beautifully recreated 3D environments. If you'd like to know more, please visit a link in the description below, which outlines everything you can look forward to in Grand Voyage. Now, without further delay, let's get to the point. What have we been doing? Well, it's been a little while since our last update video, and that's okay. Even though the videos don't come out very often, we are always working on new and exciting things for our game. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get all the latest updates, or even better, join our Patreon to support the work our team's doing and get early access to updates, as well as early access to the game itself once it's finished. So, first of all, the assets. The game's production has been heavily focused on asset creation. Almost everything has been made from scratch by a very talented team of artists and engineers. The Grand Voyage team now numbers more than 15 people, and most of these are 3D modelers who sculpt and craft ships' exteriors, ornate and detailed rooms, or buildings from plans, photos, and in some very difficult cases, only historic illustrations. Here's what some of them have been doing. Almost our whole team has been focused on the interior of some of our ships for a change. Now, this is no more evident than aboard the Empress of Ireland. Finally, 3D modeler Liam's magnificent interior models could be textured, and all of the colours and patterns had to be made from scratch. Historical advisor Robin and texture artist Sylvie worked hand in hand over the course of months to lovingly recreate the patterns, fabrics and timbers you see in the music room of the Empress of Ireland. Now, this room was a comfortable space for passengers to enjoy a relaxing book or a gentle tune on the grand piano, and towering above it all was a magnificent stained glass dome which Sylvie recreated by hand, drawing the ornate floral patterns and colouring them to Robin's historic notes. This was a huge accomplishment from them, and it was a real team effort, with 3D modelers Liam, Andrew and Matteo all chipping in to help. We're excited to reveal the next interior space, the cafe, which sat below the music room. It's now complete, and it's in-game, and the team has moved on to complete the staircase and the dining saloon below. Soon, the Empress of Ireland's first interior spaces will be totally complete and ready for release. New team member Vicente has joined and focused on revamping buildings for the Port of Liverpool, two of which include the magnificent and iconic Liver and Port of Liverpool buildings, which he has remodelled almost from scratch and poured in tons of detail. Although these buildings won't be explorable by the player, their proximity to the Port of Liverpool made it important that their detail was up to scratch. But that's not all. Vicente also modelled the cinema from the cruise ship and former ocean liner Lakonia. In real life, this room was playing a film the night the ship caught on fire and passengers walked out halfway because they thought they could smell smoke. In Grand Voyage, players will be able to sit down and watch actual period films of cruises and voyages from the 1950s and 1960s to learn more about the ship and her times. Elsewhere on Lakonia, you'll find new hyper-detailed lifeboats. Actually, you'll find the same on the Empress of Ireland. This was a special project given to master modeler Matteo, who worked from scant references to create accurate recreations of the boats. These are more than just eye candy. In-game, players will be able to control tenders aboard the Lakonia to take them ashore in a certain new environment, but more on that in a minute. Andrew, another new member of the team, has recreated the Lakonia's upper deck pool, which was the first enclosed pool on an ocean liner to feature a retractable roof. We just know you'll love exploring this unique and comfortable space once you're on board. Liam, interior modeler extraordinaire, has been working away on the next big batch of interiors, the public rooms of the Lakonia. The main lounge and dance floor, creatively titled the Lakonia room, has taken up the majority of his time the last few weeks, and now it's complete, ready to be textured by the rest of the team. The room is little changed from its time when the liner was known as Johan van Oldenbarneveld. We think you'll have a lot of fun exploring the detailed carvings and mouldings and admiring the view outside the huge bay windows. We've also decorated many other spaces aboard Lakonia. What was once empty is now full of detail. Now this has been no easy task because the ship was only in service for a few months before it was lost, and few actual photos exist. Instead, we've relied on historic documents like this final program from the day the ship was lost to give us clues as to what was going on. For example, table tennis in the ship's starboard side promenade deck. Other rare colour photos in tiny resolutions have shown clues. This one showed us that the shop here was selling camera film stock, and the little cabinet behind it held choice photos that passengers had taken during their trip. We've recreated this in-game so you can learn more about the ship's fascinating, brief life. We're also excited to announce some new ports, first and foremost of which is New York City. For the first time, players will be able to explore the inside and outside of the legendary Chelsea Piers in Manhattan, completed in the early 1900s, and the terminal for history's greatest ships from Lusitania to Olympic and Queen Mary. In Grand Voyage, you'll be able to explore the piers in a post-release DLC. Liam has worked incredibly hard to bring these piers to life, and considering they were lost in the 1970s and 1980s as they fell into disrepair, we hope you're excited to travel back in time to 1910s New York and see them, and the pier front brought digitally and beautifully back to life. Also being readied is an exciting exotic location, Madeira. This Portuguese retreat has long been a favourite of cruise ships since the 1920s and 30s, and in Lakonia's day in the 60s, it was thriving. Now you will be able to step off Lakonia as she's anchored in the bay and take a tender boat ashore to explore unique locations in this island paradise, getting to enjoy the thrill of 1960s cruise tourism along the way. We're also excited to announce that the historic port of Quebec, home to many years for the Empress of Ireland and her sister ship, is complete, and it is very, very beautiful, with the fort looking down upon the docks and the Empress tied alongside. We just know you'll have a great time exploring this space and learning about the history of this fascinating and beautiful land. But not everything from that golden age of travel was sunset and island joys. Down below decks, Iron Men worked hard on their remarkable machines to keep the ships going, and this team's own Iron Man, Ethan, has delivered some incredible work recreating the Empress of Ireland's reciprocating engines. Working closely with Liam, he's animated the big pistons, the crankshafts and the eccentrics, as well as other auxiliary components to accurately recreate the workings of the engines. In Grand Voyage, you'll be able to take a trip down to the engine room to walk among the massive Twin Sphinx engines as they thunder across the ocean. Just listen to these kittens purr. Music is a huge part of creating the atmosphere for Grand Voyage. The whole team has been blown away by how relaxing the game is to play and how immersive it really is. Now, this is in no small part thanks to the efforts of Score Twins, our musical partners who have composed more than 80 minutes of original music for the game. We've played a little bit of this before, and we'll be releasing some more tracks for you to enjoy before the launch. Now, remember when I mentioned the Empress of Ireland's piano? Well, music was important back then as well, so much so that all three classes aboard the ship had access to their own pianos. The Lakonia as well. Almost every lounge featured an instrument. In-game, you'll be able to use the pianos on board like a kind of jukebox and pick from nearly a dozen popular tunes from the 1910s aboard the Empress and the 1960s aboard Lakonia. Now this is because we worked with Score Twins and one of their partners to record a professional pianist playing beautiful music tracks for you to enjoy, like the Blue Danube Waltz. Alexander's Ragtime Band, the Empress of Ireland Waltz, and the Hawaiian Wedding Song. Lakonia also has a special feature. an actual jukebox which you'll be able to play with and enjoy some 60s treats. In fact, there are a few musical Easter eggs in there too. Does anybody know who sang this song? Meanwhile, we've also been listening to your feedback and we're pleased to announce a new feature. Matt, our lead developer, without whom none of this would be possible, has configured a photo mode where players will be able to use various filters and effects to create captivating screenshots in-game. But we also listened to many of you who wanted a free cam mode. Well, you asked for it, and now you get it. Now you'll be able to pause in-game time and explore the ships and the ports from the outside with a bird's eye view of everything down below. Just think of the screenshot competitions we'll be able to run. So what's next for the project? Well, the asset team is still hard at work fitting out the inside of the ships, but now the engineer team is stepping up to the plate to tackle the back-end aspects that will make the game run. Now, this is definitely no easy task either. The game needs to be optimized. It needs to be tested. The actual bones of the experience, how it works and runs, they all need to be shored up and put into place. Now, one big part of this is configuring it to actually work with our release platform. Grand Voyage is planned for release on Steam, a trusted game host, but it will need to be engineered to comply with their platform. Now, this will take some time, but fortunately Matt, our lead developer, and Kelsey, our engineer, have some great input from a AAA games engineer and developer who's recently joined us as a kind of anonymous advisor, sort of like our Batman. Without the developer team, Grand Voyage would be a pretty but unplayable mess, and it's their work which is assembling all the wonderful and exciting 2D, 3D, and musical assets that the team have been creating. Now, I can already hear you asking, when is Grand Voyage being released? Well, I'll be honest, we're still working on it. The scope of the game has grown a little bit since we first started, but not by a huge amount. We want to release the project as soon as possible because we know that some similar projects have been promised and delayed, but we're also mindful of the fact that we're an amateur team, mostly made up of enthusiasts, and we want to deliver something as functional and complete to you as possible. Now, I, as the producer, am making some calls when it comes to what can be left behind for future releases. For example, the NPCs. We've had some beautiful stuff made by our costume modeler Anna, but the people have taken a lot of time and testing, and they're still not quite there. I don't want to delay Grand Voyage's release to wait on NPC characters. Instead, we can probably move ahead and release the game, adding NPCs in an update not too far behind the release. The same's true of the R101 Airship. This has taken an enormous amount of work and research by Tino, our modeler, but there are many gaps in our knowledge of the airship, and her development is steady but slow. If the Empress and Lakonia are ready for release, we'll simply give the R101 later as a future release when she's ready. So when will the game come out? Well, the end of the year is only 4 months away. It will be very tight as a timeline to deliver a complete product by then. The team will push as hard as they can, but it seems more likely now that a 2025 release is more the go. I'd originally planned for a 2024 release, but we'll tell you now that the amount of work that has had to go into simply texturing the interiors, cleaning up the models, and making sure everything fits is nothing short of Herculean, and honestly more than what even I thought was required. I'd like to give huge props to the team for working together to create what they have, because I've been blown away by how much work they've put in. We will keep you posted on the release, but I can assure you, barring any serious problems or delays, we will be releasing a product as soon as we're able, and the progress in recent months has been enormous. In the coming weeks, the team will be coming together to probably talk frankly and openly together about a likely release date, and we will commit to this. So we thank you all so much for your patience and excitement for this project, and we can tell you there are a few things in store that you may not be expecting that will more than make up for the wait. Now, speaking of which, many people have asked if syncing levels will be included, and for the longest time we've said that no, we'll not be including a real-time syncing level. Now, this is still true, but we also can't ignore that many of these ships were lost in horrible ways, with great loss of life. Now, we want to depict and pay tribute to this in an educational and respectful way. Real-time syncings are, for now, technically impossible for our game, from a programming standpoint, but we have designed what we're calling snapshot levels instead. These are optional levels that give you a glimpse, a snapshot into the ship's final voyage. You'll be able to experience aspects of the Empress of Ireland and Lakonia's sinkings before exploring a level purely dedicated to the victims and the artifacts from the ships once they were lost. Because Grand Voyage celebrates these ships as engineering and human achievements though, emphasis will always be on the vessels as they were in life and not in death, so players, after witnessing the sinking, will be invited to turn back time digitally as it were, to bring the lost ships back to life as they once were. Proud, beautiful masters of the ocean. We'll reveal more about the snapshot levels soon, but we hope this is a happy middle ground for those of you interested in the fate and the actual history of these remarkable ships. Lastly, we're beginning to work ahead on the ships we plan to include in the future. You've already seen Andrea Doria and the Aquitania. Here is a beautiful view of Aquitania's bridge, by the way. We have others in mind, but we'll be pretty coy about revealing them as we already have so much to do. But I will say, however, that we have plans for 2 ships in the future, either 2025 or 2026, one which pulled off a daring rescue, and the other which ran down and sank a smaller vessel by accident. Well, that's about it for this update video. If you're not already following us on social media, please follow the links below for our Instagram and our Facebook. We put out screenshots and updates much more regularly. Or you can support the project and keep your finger on the pulse, getting updates and even the game itself before anybody else does, all the while supporting the work this amazing team is doing. Visit patreon.com/grandvoyagegame to learn more. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and of course, bon voyage.